Let's get back to the bills.
Yeah.
AB 84.
AB 84, again, another example of where, these legislators have been doing this for a very long time, and they're not going to say, especially Almer Atsuchi, he's the author of the bill. Really, the California Teachers Association is the author of the bill, but he's the little puppet in the front that's, proposing the bill. And he's running against Sonia Shah, like you just mentioned, our good dear friend Sonia Shah, who's running for superintendent.
God bless you.
God bless her, of public education in 2026. So a candidate for the superintendent of public instruction is not going to say, I'm going to shut down charter schools, which essentially will shut down homeschools and will essentially shut down all the vendors who support charter and homeschools. He's not going to say that, right? Technically, he's a legislator. He should be upholding the Constitution and following the law, and also supporting supporting his constituents and parents and their constitutional right to choose what kind of education their children receives. So what they are doing is they're essentially, and the bill is extremely long. It's the way I printed it, it was 65 pages. It's one of the longest bills I've ever read. But if you print it in another format, it's actually 211 pages. So it's extremely long. And what they are doing is they are forcing charter schools that operate around 45% of the same, funding as public schools, traditional public schools. They're forcing them to meet the same criteria and more criteria than public schools, traditional public schools, which we all pay for and own the buildings that they're in and don't have leases and have an entire system built into the government that supports that system. So charter schools, anyway, so that's AB 84. So they're basically creating offices, new positions in the California government, and to regulate and monitor and track and control charter schools.
What's bad about that control? What's bad about that extra accountability? So
we already have accountability. Charter schools in California already have accountability. They keep pointing to this one really terrible example of fraud that happened in around 2019. It's the A3 charter school system. They completely took advantage of the system, like tens of millions of dollars. This horrible group took advantage and embezzled.
Are they in jail?
I don't know if they're currently in jail at this moment, but what happened? We found out about it. Actually, do you know who was reporting it? Were the charter schools who were saying, these people are doing something's going on with this charter school that just exploded all up and down the state. Allegedly, thousands of students enrolled and are expanding really fast. I mean, if you
out of nowhere.
Who rang the alarm? Who sounded the alarm? The charter schools. Why? Because we barely get any money. We don't want fraud. We want to work cooperatively with the government. We appreciate the unique position that we're in, and we already don't get enough funding as it is. That's why it makes me laugh. Why would a charter school, we have zero incentive. Again, look at the people who have something to lose. We're going out of our way to oppose this bill because this bill is going to make it impossible for us to continue to operate. And we already have systems in place that already uncovered the fraud, the couple, there's like 2 or 3 big cases of fraud, prosecuted them to the full extent of the law, returned all of the money. And the only thing about the jail time is there were criminal charges, and I actually think they were on house arrest, and I don't know if they actually went to jail. I'm not sure, so I just don't want to, I'll get debunked and trolled, and this whole thing will get throttled if I misspeak. So I don't want to misspeak, but there were charges, and they were supposed to go to jail. I'm not sure if they actually went to jail. But the point is, we reported it, and they found it out, and they have the systems in place and the laws in place to make sure that charter schools are accountable and that there's transparency and accountability and that there's recourse if there is any fraud.
Give me an example how charter schools are not going to operate if this bill is going to be passed.
One example is so charter schools are public schools. It's an independent learning public school. So it's not traditional public school where you have the brick and mortar and children go from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and they sit in their desks and they have a set schedule. A charter school is essentially a public school, and they just provide a different learning experience depending on what the parents of the charter school want. And so there's thousands, there's over 10,000. I'm not sure. I don't want to.
Every charter school has a small board, and they vote for what they want their children to learn.
And a charter school has a charter, and the parents come up with a charter, and the charter school is directly accountable to the parents. It's like it's just a contract. We come up with a contract. These are the terms of the contract, and we're accountable.
It's a business.
It's a business.
Okay.
And
everybody's happy.
Supposed to be. It's a business. Exactly. If you don't like it, you go to another charter school.
Correct.
You go back to public school. And if we're doing great, we continue to grow. And it's a collaborative experience for, and parents get to choose the type of educational experience that is appropriate for their child, whether because that child has unique learning needs or physical needs and is medically complex, whether it's a foster care child, a military child that can't be in school year round 9 months from 8 to 3 because their parent is going to get deployed. Charter schools provide the curriculum that can follow that child to Afghanistan or to Germany or wherever that child goes and still be on track.
Or another state.
Or you can also have, there are children, and that's the thing is that the people that are fighting these bills, they aren't thinking about the people who need the charter schools the most, who are going to be impacted if charter schools close. And I didn't answer your question, but I'll explain. I will get to your question. Is we're talking about teen moms who are pregnant but want to graduate, but they can't. Now they have to work or they have to stay home. They can't bring their baby and they can't afford to have childcare. So she wants to do her lessons at home from her computer while her baby sleeps, but she can't go to school. So it's also incarcerated. Children, juveniles who are incarcerated, they can also, if they're in and out of the system, a charter school offers that. Or children who have to work, 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds who haven't graduated yet but need to work because of their family situation. I mean, if you look at the type of people who are opposing AB 84, it's not what these.
It's not inclusive at all.
Exactly, and it's not who they're saying is. It's just not who they're portraying this, to be the opponents of this bill. And so in terms of how, going back to what I was just saying about how AB 84 will make it so that charter schools and then homeschools, and I always refer to homeschools because it's it's an ecosystem. My friend Tara Thornton and Denise Aguilar of the Freedom Angels, they've been in this space for a very long time, and Tara always describes it as an ecosystem that, because charter schools and then the homeschools use vendors. So while you may do math, reading, writing, and arithmetic and history or whatever at home, you will go to a music teacher or you will go to an equestrian center to get your child therapies or a speech therapist or, whatever. Say it again? PE, whatever it is. So there are vendors that all of us use because some of us don't know how to play violin, but our daughter wants to.
Or teach chemistry, physics.
Exactly. So we have vendors. So AB 84, that's a perfect example. AB 84 only will only allow vendors who have teaching credentials. So right now, my daughter can go learn physics, astrophysics, from a retired NASA, astronaut who knows about astrophysics and knows about, whatever. Oh, he's 87 years old and he does not have his teaching credential. He doesn't care to do that. And I guarantee you, knows more than the teacher with the teaching credential trying to teach. I mean, if they even teach astrophysics in 3rd grade. But they want him, they're not going to do that. So they're going to drive out vendors that way, limit our options.
But they're fighting what those vendors are actually teaching. Maybe someone is teaching anti-government stuff.
Well, that can happen in school, and that is happening in school. We have communist, socialist, radical teachers teaching communist, fascist ideas in schools right now.
BLM, white supremacy, privilege.
Okay, we have pedophiles who are raping our children in schools right now, okay? And they actually do background checks. And by the way, my charter that I go through, they have one of the most extreme background checking, vetting systems. So we're talking about a couple of things. What does credentialing really mean? Clearly, even if you and I don't know, again, let's just go to entry level, what we see with our eyeballs. I don't know what the credentialing process is in the state of California. What I do know is that teachers who are credentialed, and I know they're credentialed because they're teaching in a public school, and I can see their TikToks are teaching revolutionary, Marxist, communist ideas. We know that because we've seen that. I also know that they are sexually abusing our children because it's all over the news all the time. So what does really, even though I don't know what it means, I know that it doesn't guarantee any of the things that you're talking about. What they're trying to do is add an additional hurdle for charter schools to function that puts them back under the supervision and the control of the public school system. Oh, well, maybe I'm not going to give this NASA scientist his credential, even though he, came in with his cane and he got his credentialing. Maybe I'm not going to do that. So now they're controlling you that way, whether you get to operate, whether you get to offer this curriculum or not, and just make it, again, they're just bureaucratic hurdles that don't really help the kids.
But once again, if you don't like the vendor, you change it.
Right.
You replace it with another one, right?
Yes, correct. That's one example. Let's not focus on the credentialing because, first of all, I don't think credentialing means anything. Clearly, credentialing is happening now in public schools and it's not working. And I don't think that a teaching credential is indicative of how effective or safe your instructor is going to be.
How did Jeffrey Epstein get his credential being a 24-year-old and teaching in Dalton School in New York?
Exactly.
Does anybody has the answer? Please comment below.
Oh God,
24-year-old in Dalton.
You're going everywhere in this podcast.
But this is a credential to have, right?
I knew I should have given you a list and been like, this is the list, and I'm your lawyer, and this is the list that we're sticking to. But that's just one example. Another example is going back to the very beginning of my very long comment is that some of the schools are. So there's classroom-based and non-classroom-based, and a lot of the schools are not classroom-based, or not a lot of the schools, but there are many schools that a majority of their day is not sitting in a desk, so in a classroom. So they are saying that if you don't, and actually there was an amendment, and I'm not sure, I don't remember right now, but they did reduce the time. But they were originally saying if you spend more than 75% of your classroom experience outside of the classroom, then they were cutting your funding. Actually, that's not true. I need to look at the percentages, but they were saying they were tying how much funding you got based on how much time you forced children to sit in their desks in the classroom like the traditional public schools do, which is exactly the reason why I'm not doing traditional public school. That doesn't work for my kid. That doesn't work for my immunocompromised kid. That doesn't work for my hyper son or daughter who can't sit still. That doesn't work for about 98% of young children who need to be outside in the sunlight, in the fresh air, learning by engaging with one another and learning from real life experiences.
This could go, for instance, in Minnesota, when you have a winter, harsh, severe winter and fall and maybe spring, because Minnesota weather is like Lithuanian weather, it's very cold. But here in California, you can be outside 300 days a year, 300 sunny days a year.
And for a lot of people who don't, again, this is another thing. We know where our modern day educational system came from. Okay, this is not about what's in the best interest of the children.
At all.
Rockefeller, the whole thing is
workers.
We want workers that are trained to repeat and that can be, that just follow orders. We're not training children to learn and be independent and take risks and be creative and problem solvers because we're outside and there is a storm that comes and we built a tent or we built a makeshift whatever, and then, whatever the case may be. That's a silly example, but you mentioned weather, so that's something how like out in real life, or we're out in a field and all of a sudden a bull comes, and how are we going to get? I don't know. I'm just thinking of examples. That's silly because my children go to a charter school, and we are down the street. We're certainly not in a field learning, learning the school lessons, the curriculum. But there are just examples of. But what they will do is they will go and they will do a cooking class. They will go make their lunches, cook their lunches together, right? They will go and they will build. Instead of going and buying, we're going to build this thing and then we're going to use it together and we're going to see how it works. And so it's not classroom based. It's outside, or it's in a lab. It's at a lab, or it's in a music center. And we're not going to learn how to we're not going to learn how to read music and memorize it. We're going to learn how to write a song, because I went and now I work with this composer who used to work for the LA Philharmonic, not credentialed, but she's going to teach you how to write music.
Sure.
So, and it's not in the classroom. But listen to the types of experiences that I'm explaining. I did traditional public school for many years. I went to university, I went to law school, I went and studied for the New York bar. I've done like all the things. I actually love learning. I'm a big nerd. I love to learn, but but listen to the things that my kids are doing, how they're learning how to play and read and appreciate music versus you're going to sit here for a 45-minute class and you're going to, again. And I'm not saying the teacher is not strict. She's very strict and she does make them do things over and over again. But, you know, that's the kind of experience that we now know because of COVID. Again, another silver lining of COVID. When we had to do this, that's what I'm saying. COVID was the worst, but it was also the best.
The best.
Because the government underestimated the human spirit. It underestimated our resolve and our grit, human grit. And it underestimated, I think they missed the mark. And so if they had really done it all the way it should have been done, we would be done. Humanity would be toast. But they didn't. And so now it's like a disaster. Now they really just got us, like I said, onto certain platforms. I have Instagram, I have an X account. I was never on Twitter in my life before. We have remote hearings and Zooms to learn how to go to a rally and advocate and legislate and lobby and how to all these things. And they really just kind of, there's a phrase, an expression for what I'm describing, but they didn't do it all the way. And so now there's this offshoot that is way more potent than before. I don't know what I'm